Hello, everyone. Welcome to Love Goddess Podcast with Katya Melvin. And today I have a special treat for all of you. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Missy, and I'm going to share a little more information about what she does or what she used to do. She's going to share all her story. Um, have you ever even imagined what it would be like to live life as a sex phone operator? What kind of people you're gonna have on your phone calls? Just even having that excitement before picking up the phone, like who are you gonna meet? Have you ever imagined what the thrill would feel like? And so I have Missy here. She is a former sex operator from Australia. She has 4 years of experience and she has some very hilarious stories to tell. And she wrote a book called Tales of a Phone Sex Girl. And she is going to be sharing some of those stories from her experience today with us on our podcast. So, if you are curious about what it's like being a phone sex operator without to actually take a call yourself, let's bring Misty to our podcast and she's gonna share all of that with us. And without further ado, welcome Missy to the stage. Hi, Missy.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
How are you?
Good. I'm good, thanks. We had a lot of technical
Good.
issues there, but it's all good now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, welcome to Love Goddess podcast. My first question is, how did you even get started in this?
Well, I mean, the story goes back a bit of a way. So I actually had an interest in it, I guess, for most of my adult life. I used to see the ads on TV, and when I was 19, I decided I'm going to do this. But obviously, I didn't do it at that stage. But I actually went and got to the stage of like starting to set up the trial site. So you have to set up a trial, and once you've set up a trial, then you can then you start, you start doing it because they throw you in the deep end. So I'd set up a trial and then I had to cancel the trial. And then the company, I was on the phone to them and they said, if this is going to be an ongoing thing, then, we won't have you. And I said, well, my grandpa was sick and I just wanted to reschedule. And they didn't, she was very, 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 very grumpy and disgruntled. And yeah, just as if she just had enough of like hearing people's excuses. And so that was when I was 19. And then, I just kept seeing the ads over the years, and then after a breakup and a new relationship, I just saw the ads, and I just thought, that's it. I'm doing it, and that's it. So I just thought, I just have to kind of do it and just jump in, and then give it a go. So I did the trial, and I mean, it was pretty humbling at the time. Although the 19-year-old in me was like, I'm not a quitter anymore, kind of thing. Because I'd
Yeah.
always wondered about it, always.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of acting in this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is primarily, it's improv acting.
Yeah. Did you have fears like maybe I'm not done, like maybe I'm not built for this, or were there certain hesitations before going
Honestly,
into this?
no. I always knew, like, even when I was 19, I always knew I was good at phone sex, for having like phone sex with like boyfriends and whatnot, like over the phone. I was one of those kids that kind of grew up on the internet, and so I had like lots of international friends, and like I'd have lots of phone calls and stuff, and so kind of phone sex was kind of like something that I just kind of did anyway. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was sort of something that, sorry, I need to just plug my iPad in before it dies. 2 seconds.
No
Sorry for my
worries.
life. Yeah, anyway. It's good. It's all good. It's charging. So oh, it's just lagged a bit. Okay. so I kind of just thought, I think I'm going to be good at this. And I just kind of knew it. So no, I never really had any doubts that I wasn't going to be good. I think after the third phone call, I was like, you know what, this is easy. I actually can do this. And I guess I just kind of had to prove to myself that I was right. I would always be able to do it. I don't know. I've always
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
confidence.
Okay, so tell me how your first one went. Did you what were your fears before picking up the phone? And by the way, how does that work? Do you get hired for a company, or do you just decide to do it on your own? Tell me
So
how
if you
that
just
works in Australia.
if you decide to do it, it's basically that you just like contact the company, say you want to do it, and then you organize a trial. So it's all online, and then you have to have like an AD, a registered business number, and everything like that. But for the trial, they just basically just say you just need to have that information, and then you can they just throw you in the deep end. They say you need to do 30 minutes to accrue 30 minutes of talk time, and you've got like the space of an hour, so you need to be logged in for an hour, and then you accrue that time, and you just take phone call after phone call after phone call. But I think they slow it down for you when you first start, and they give you kind of like the ones that are like the easier customers, so like the ones that just call and just want to talk to, like, somebody who speaks sexy, rather than someone that wants like a more complicated service, like a fetish or something like that. So yeah, when they just put me on, it says press 1 to start calls. So I pressed 1 to start calls, and then I had my first phone call and the second one, and they just kept coming. And one of the funny things I did do is that first time, my brain immediately went to that space of like having phone sex, like, with like people I've known, and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to do anything. I can fake everything. so like, in the beginning, I was like, trying to make it sound like I had some authentic sucking sounds. So I like actually bought a lollipop, sucking a lollipop. And then I was like, I don't have to do any of this. And then I had I was like, I don't even need to even turn on a vibrator. So I was like, I'm just going to turn on my toothbrush. So I pressed my toothbrush.
Sound effects. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I wanted to kind of prove to myself and to prove to the rest of these guys, that like I'm authentic. But I wasn't. But I mean, there was some authentic discussions, but by and large, I was acting.
So you remembered all of the stories that you had and you put them into your book. How do you have such a great memory? How do you remember all these stories in such detail?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know how or why, but I've always had a really phenomenal memory, and so it just kind of plays in perfectly to it. So I'm just able to remember all the details of what that my clients told me. I think that was why they would continue to call me back. Like, I knew that this was like Sean when he was calling, or this was like Jaden when he called, and he had his specific kinks and things that he liked, and I knew how to move with the clients and, move with the motions of their breath and their breathing, and exactly what they were expecting me to say, what they wanted, holding back on what it was that, I knew that they wanted to finish, but holding back on it, to keep them alive longer, like a stay with me, baby, or but like not saying that, but like using other ways to kind of say the same kind of thing, like keep them in a rhythm, and they knew, like deep down, like they knew that I was able to say the right things, and that's why they kept calling me back. And a lot of the times they would say to me, I don't know why, I had to call you back because like I don't know why. And I'm like, I think I must be using some kind of innate psychology, like that's like primal.
So they had an opportunity to pick the girl. Mm-hmm.
So the calls had 5 selections. So I could be I was just a hot chick. I was a mistress. I was a submissive, and each one a submissive. Water sports was the other one, and I think I threw in another one there for anime because I have a thing. I like Dragon Ball Z. So I had that for anime as well. And I
Wait,
just kind of,
so those personas, it was you for you to play out.
oh
So
yeah.
they
So what
wanted the
they did was
mistress.
they push the button, and then they would hear like a little recording of like, hey, my name is, like, if I was like a mistress, like, hey, my name is Missy. Um, have you been a really bad boy? Do you need to be punished? And then like the next one would be like, hi, I'm Missy. I'm so naughty. I've been touching myself all night. And then like another one would be like, do you like being peed on, or do you like water sports? I just love to have wet panties, and just like things like that. And so then they would press the button and select me, and then if they selected me, then I'd get a bonus, and they'd hear Missy bonus, and then the
Uh-huh.
bonus would be an extra 10 cents a minute or something if they selected me specifically.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about how you were getting paid for this. So apparently, you worked for the company that was then issuing you the payment. And did
Mhm.
they take the cut, or was it
No, she'd
directly
already
going
taken
to
the
you?
cut.
Hmm.
I had already taken the cut, so it wasn't like a metered or anything. Unfortunately, that would have been amazing. No, so basically, what we got paid is 85 cents a minute as the top, and then the medium one was 60 cents, 55 cents a minute. So not a lot, but we would often what we would normally like. What would be the bulk of my salary would be those at that 85 cents a minute, but
Hmm.
then something happened, and which basically kind of killed the Australian phone sex industry. It's barely breathing. It's still there, but I won't go back to it because they cut 1-900 numbers, so that meant that no longer would anyone be able to call from like their home, and then just like get instantly charged. And so they'd have to actually register a credit card with the service, which meant their wife would know if they had a wife, and then their identity was known, and it was no longer totally anonymous. And so yeah, that's kind of, and then the pay, they dropped the pay and they didn't compensate us for it. So there was no way that I was going to be paid 45 cents a minute to talk about wetting my pants.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What was the charge for them to have, like, for the
About
clients?
$10 a minute, I believe.
Oh,
5 to
wow.
$10 to pick up your phone. Like, I don't know what you guys call them over there, but we call them landlines. So like $10 to pick up the landline. You could instantly pick it up, dial and put the number in, and then you had, that, and then you were basically connected to the service. And then they took that away, and so then you had to actually, I think it was, if you signed up, then it was $5 a minute. Like, so if you sign with your
Mhm.
credit card, because then you're paying using your mobile, and it's kind of different. But I think exorbitant charges even from a mobile, like even if you picked up a mobile. But that's all. None of that happens anymore. Like it's you just have to register with the service, and your
Mhm.
credit cards goes on file.
What were the years, if you don't mind sharing, when you were actually actively working as a sex phone
So
operator?
I started in 2017, and
Mhm.
I finished up in 2020. I think because after, around 2020 was just the time that they cut the phone lines, and
Uh-huh.
that's when everything started to go downhill. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. And it was very sad, but yeah, that was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What made you want to write a book and share that story with the
I've
rest of the
always
world?
wanted to. I just never thought, like, as soon as I finished it, I was like, I really wish I could talk more about this, like my experience with it. And I was always thinking about it, but I was always afraid. I was always terrified that, like, someone will find out my identity, and that I've got this whole
Mhm.
like double life thing, and that I did have that. And so I've always been concerned. But then I thought, there are like millions of women in Australia, and there are so many different accents in the world that people are not just going to be able to identify who I am
Yeah.
instantaneously. So I kind of, I've resolved myself to the fact is that there's a way to tell my story, and I think it's important because it's totally different to what we have today. Like, there's no such thing as,
Yeah.
back then there was no such thing as OnlyFans when I started.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Question of the day. Did guys actually finish?
Oh, absolutely. Every time I made them finish. I mean, every man has a half life. They have a half life,
Hmm.
or they have like a like a, they have like a limit. And so you know when that's coming and you have to finish up. But I made them all finish, like that was my goal. It was kind of like a thing, like I've got to keep this guy on to the end. The whole point is you've got to keep them on, because once you've kept them on and got them to the end, they're so much more likely to call back. Unless they've got some psychological thing where the whole purpose of calling is to do that, listen to that, and then finish offline.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Do you believe, and I don't know how much they shared with you, do you believe that were most guys single, or did they have partners? Did they share that information with you?
Most of them had partners. Most of them had wives. Most of them were calling in the dead of the night. They would say that their wife is asleep, or there was some crazy things. Like I did have some that said, I am just coming back from fucking my wife's best friend, and things like that. Like, you heard those sorts of things. I had one guy who actually was on the phone to me once, and this isn't even in the book, by the way. So this is a new one. I had one who called me, and he was running down the street to get home in time so that his wife didn't suspect that he was having an affair with another woman. And I think it was like his wife's cousin or something, or maybe it was best friend, but he said it like, I think, yeah. But he was actually on the phone to me. I'm like, why on earth is someone calling phone sex service to tell me this? And there was not, and that the premise of the call, like, he was running. I mean, this could have been an entire made up scenario, but there was still somebody who was literally running, panting and running, and I could hear traffic and everything behind him and everything. And yeah, and then he was running. So that was one of my calls once, and that was very strange. That one, I was like, what's going on here? But it started with him hearing, I don't know what you guys, do you call it video? Like those the slot machines. You call them slot machines, don't you? Yeah. So it was, we call them poker machines, and I could hear the poker machines in the background. So he started calling me when he was in public in like a poker machine room, and then ran home. So,
oh my God.
Very strange. Yes, so they cheat.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, nobody's surprised. A lot of it's very, very common for men to cheat anyway. And so it's just kind of, you're going to get that in terms of the demographic that's calling. You're just going to get that. And some of them, some of them were single, but that whole myth about, it's just these crazy, lonely people.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's really not that simple. Like, they weren't like gross old men. Like, quite often they would make me look at their social media profiles, so sometimes I knew who they were and what they looked like.
Mm-hmm. Did girls ever call you too?
Did occasionally. I think maybe in the course of doing, I might have had about 5 phone calls, so maybe one every 6 months, maybe a little bit, maybe 6 7 months or so, maybe 4 or 5. Yeah. And they were a couple of times it was somebody it was a girl who was bi, and another time it was actually like a lesbian, and she told me she was a lesbian. And then I told her she was bi, and I told her I was bi, and she was very happy with that.
Mm-hmm. How different were girls from men?
It's really hard to kind of, not that different. I think the women were more discreet, and you wouldn't necessarily know if they had come. But I mean, I don't know if they did or not, but they would. I got to the point where, knowing myself, and I'm female, I'm a woman, so I know, obviously. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that she was just coming, but then there was no like climax like you would expect. So it makes you think, how much of the stuff on porn is really real?
No. Exactly.
How much acting?
All of it is acting. Was there a script that you used for doing these phone calls, or was it just improvising?
No script whatsoever.
Yeah.
they just threw us into the deep end. I was like, my first time I did it with that first call, like I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do? And then I was like, oh, I'm just going to be sexy. I'll just be sexy. And then that was pretty much it. And I think it just comes from understanding human sexuality, understanding how people can get aroused, listening to the sound of their voice, listening to the pace of their breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. That was my script. My script also was kind of like my own kind of repertoire that I kind of put into it. But there were definitely aspects where I guess they were very rehearsed for me.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't written down. Wasn't scripted. It was kind of like there are aspects that were quite rehearsed.
Yeah. You
Like the
mentioned,
moaning.
right. You mentioned, just be sexy. What does that mean to you personally? And then what does that mean in context of acting this out for other people?
So I guess it's like giggling. It's like being really interested in what they're doing, responding to their cues and responding to like the sounds that they make and
Mhm.
responding in a way that they would expect and they would want from a woman. And I suppose it is kind of, I don't know, maybe it is way it's kind of sad to think of it like this, but if you behave like a porn star, that's what they want because that's what they're expecting. And so I suppose you're not necessarily going to be, you're just doing what you think that they want. And I guess I was remarkably good at working that out. And I can't really explain it because it was every single call. And I had over 100 men that would call me consistently and, multiple times. And every time they called, I just knew, okay, so this is him. This is what I need to, this is how I need to do it. And this is how so be sexy was like, sometimes it was like, well, what they expect to be sexy, like what's sexy to them. So like if they lacked intellect, I would talk about the fact that I'm a scientist and like we would talk about other things because they would say you would gauge from their response. If they just wanted a quickie, you would know. If they just wanted to chat, then you would know you had to be cute and sexy. And they would kind of, oh, I love women like that. But they would tell you in a way. Like you could say, okay, this one's not interested in this conversation. He wants a more intellectual conversation. So you would dive into the intellectual stuff. And I would pull from every avenue. If I was the sporty self in me, the I don't know, the deep, like the porn star in me, or like the scientist in me, I was going to say the Democrat because that's not the right, like the political aspects of myself, and bring all of that out. And you I suppose it's kind of like like AI does what you want it to do. Kind of like the same kind of thing. Like I was doing what they wanted.
How I have so many, like there are like at least three questions in my head that I'm like, wait a second, which one do I ask? But I guess I'm gonna go back to the feeling sexy question because we started talking about this. Did you ever feel sexy while talking to these people, the men, women?
I did, but probably not for the reason that they would expect and that what they would want. I felt sexy, empowered, and I also felt like very together and very like autonomous financially and things like that. So I felt a sense of control and pride, which then I'm sure that translated. So I felt sexy because they loved the sound of my voice and I had this complete control. And so I did feel sexy, but not for them. I felt more sexy just because I had that, I had that control, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, when you were doing phone sex, were you turned on, or did you like was that part of for you getting into the game, the play, for you to turn yourself on, or was it on the back burner and that it was not playing a role at all?
I was never aroused. I could always imagine what the men looked like, and I think there was one time when I was like, ooh, that is a sexy voice, and that's it. I just never, totally different to like if I had phone sex with someone that I know, what I would like get aroused, obviously, like, but this never, because I was too focused on, like, I guess it's like the age old kind of thing with like women, like, trying to, like faking it kind of thing. Like it's always been about the man. Like this was basically, it was all about them. And so I didn't have time to kind of be aroused. I
Yeah.
had to be focused and thinking about what I wanted to do. And it doesn't matter. I can still sound sexy and I can still pretend to be aroused, and I'm very good at it.
Yeah, yeah. And it requires like to think through this
Oh
scenario.
yeah.
What's the next thing you're gonna say and how to like it's an active brain process. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's work.
Like yeah, it's work. You're not I mean, I know there are definitely, I have spoken to PSOs that actually, that they do get aroused, and that's part of like how they can do it. Not for
Uh-huh.
me. I really found quite a strong link with the sorry, I've got like a hair in my eye or something. I found like a really strong link between like being able to understand them, and then having this psychological thrill, and just moving through that, and focusing on that. I suppose there might be potential for other people, and I can see how that they would have to be aroused to do that. But for me, it was
Mhm,
all about the challenge. Like it's the game. You have to play the
mhm,
game. You got to play the
mhm.
game. You got to get them to come. It sounds so
Yeah.
silly, but it's a game, and it was
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
because you got to get everyone. You got to get them all. You got to get them coming back. You're like, come back. Like, I want you to come back. It's like, yeah, I got you. And sometimes, like, I'm laying there rolling my eyes, or I'm trying not to laugh. Like, it's a game, and it's a really glorious, invigorating game. But
Yeah.
yeah, no time to be aroused. You've got to be on your game. Well, there you go. You've got to be on your game. You've got to be focused. You've got to be in the zone. There's no
Yeah.
time for you. There's no time at all,
Yeah.
because you
You
don't matter.
So you shared that you are also a scientist. Like how
Yes.
does that side of you connect to this side of you? Like you're so diverse and like being a
I see
scientist
data. I
requires
see data. So I saw data in them. I saw data in their responses. I saw data in the way that the way that they operated in their
Mhm,
breathing. I could see data. So I could see data in what I remembered from what they've told me. I'm able
mhm,
to remember what they say. And so that's all data to me. And I just pull it all together. And so I actually have like a mental file, like this is this person. And I don't know how,
mhm.
I have met I've met one other person who has a memory like me. And he actually knows me as as Missy, and I met him, and he has a memory like mine too, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like we have like a file in our mind, and then
Mhm.
I'm able to draw from that file, and then there's this data, this data, this data, this data, this data comes out, and I can see the patterns, and then I'm able to make those connections. And so it's very similar to science. There's a science behind phone sex work, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. It's a real psychology, and so it's very similar to science.
Right. Okay. Now were you dating or married or were you single when you were working?
So when I started, I said to my partner, I said, and he's a big, tall, dark, and handsome man, and I said to him, and I was madly in love with him, and I said to him, I want to do this, like I want to do it. I think I'm going to do it. And he was like, that sounds amazing. You should do it. And that was basically it. Like he was like, that's amazing. I think you should do it. I think I think you'll be really good at it. And so I did the trial, and then he was like, well done, babe, you did it. And yeah, it was, he was very happy and very supportive, and always has been.
That's really cool. Was there ever episode of jealousy or conversation about not over like crossing the line? Was
Not at
there?
all.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was never any line crossing. I mean, my job was to basically, get
Mm-hmm.
these guys off. And he knew that. And he's like, it's not like I'm doing anything with them, like it's just
Yeah.
over the phone. We're at home. And
Yeah.
so, and he obviously knew. And like I'll tell anyone. I never got aroused anyway. It was never anything that had any meaning to me. It was just a job. So yeah, he never had concern. In fact, one time I was so excited when one of my callers, Mr. Exactly, called, that he jumped on the other side of the door, had the earphone in, and was listening to that one call, because Mr. Exactly is the funniest guy imaginable. And he got off the phone, and he had tears streaming down his face from laughing so much. So
Now, have you guys ever used any of the clients that that were coming to you as your personal turn on in your own relationship, or was that just like very separate thing, like this is a job and our sex life is different, or
Oh
was
yeah, totally.
there?
Yeah, totally separate. This
Mhm.
is a job, and our sex lives is totally different. And he never. There was never. There were instances where I was like, wow, like there is a pattern with men, breathing patterns and stuff. Like I recognize with my partner. I kind of got to know more about men in general, and then like how how they operate. And then I think it was kind of at first, like if I spent a lot of time like on the phone, like I'm talking like a whole night of like 5 or 6 hours or something, and then like we'd have sex like the next day or something. I just remember thinking, oh, so that's sex, because I spent all day talking about it. I just remember thinking like, oh yeah, that's what sex is about. That's so different. And I was like, imagine if we did some of the things that I talked about with my clients. And I thought, thank God I am not an escort.
Right. Let's talk about that aspect, that the aspect that phone sex is so separate, so safe. So, and you said it's even legal in
Yeah.
Australia. Talk
Yeah.
about
Well,
that.
so sex work is legal in Australia. We have brothels. I think
Oh, okay.
in most states, yeah, all states that you can have like there's sex work is legal. I think maybe there's one that isn't, but it's progressing pretty quickly. But yeah, it's been legal in some states for I think maybe more than 2 decades now. And so
Mhm,
there are brothels, and there's no such thing as like a red light district.
mhm.
There's no like corner. I remember watching things like Family Guy and stuff, and wondering like, what the hell are they doing? Like, because to me, even growing up as a teenager, I knew that brothels were a thing, and that men went to brothels. We have strip clubs and we have brothels, and often the brothels are connected to the strip club district or the strip club, and then they
Mhm.
go in there. So it's sex work is considered to be like work that they have the same sort of rights as any workers. And they're even police protected sometimes. So like police will actually, if there's any issues, they'll have security, and they have buttons that they can press if they think there's an issue or something, and the
Mhm.
police will be there at the drop of a hat, because they know that they're high risk. And so
Mhm.
just those sorts of things. And yeah, so phone sex is obviously, there's no issues there. And I know that there are restrictions in the US about like, what you can and can't say. Like I could
Mhm.
literally say anything, like I apparently they're not allowed to talk about, they can't talk about water sports or anything like that. Like, if you know what I mean, not actual water sports, but like,
Yes.
yeah, boring
I
sports.
am aware of the lingo,
Yeah.
but for my audience who does not know what
Yeah, so no,
water
like I'm
sport
not, yeah,
is,
I'm sure you are, but the audience, yeah, you might,
it's peeing on another person basically is what water
yeah.
sports is.
Golden
For the
showers.
lack
I
of
should have
better
said
word.
golden showers, but I couldn't quite think of it. Yeah. So apparently they're not allowed to talk about that in America. Like, those kinds of things, those
Mhm.
fetishes are off limits. Whereas in Australia, we can talk about all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
There's no limit to what you can say with phone sex.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, very different world over here.
Yeah. Have you ever met someone that you spoke with on a phone in real life?
I haven't, but I did find that one of my friends in my friend network was actually friends with one of the people that I'd spoken to, because he showed me his Facebook profile, and because he wanted me to see it, because he had like a weight loss journey that he was going through.
Mhm.
That's really sweet, and that's kind of that might be for a future book. Um,
Uh-huh.
but he came up in my friend suggestions, and I thought, wow, like really small world.
Do you think he recognized you?
No.
Yeah.
He didn't know what I looked like. So the avatar that we would have, like we would have like a face like thing online on like
Yeah.
and you could see, but it was what they wanted, like what they did. Then you just gave them a description. I wanted somebody with the same kind of hair color as me,
Yeah.
and like same kind of similar features, and then they just created it. And so he thought I looked like a completely different person, and everybody would always comment about how beautiful the bra was that I was wearing. I was like, oh, that's right, shit, I'm wearing a bra. Because they're like, is that really you? And I'm like, yeah, it's me, but It's just back then there was no such thing as AI images, so
Uh-huh.
um yeah, so I just said, yeah, it's me. It's just been like heavily photoshopped so that it doesn't look like me for protective reasons. And they believed it. But
Uh-huh.
honestly, like, it wasn't too far from me, I suppose.
Uh, what were your opinion on your clients when they were talking to you? Were you like doing judgment in your head, or create like having like what's going on in your
Oh,
head when you're doing it?
100%. There was a lot of judgment, especially in the beginning. Like, I guess you're coming from a world where, like, you do know these things, but you've never really been directly exposed to, like, someone telling you that I want you to, you know, I want you to sit on my face and piss in my mouth, like those sorts of things. Like, that's really intense kind of stuff. And so I don't know how that light. That's very odd. A random light just turned on.
You have a ghost in your house.
It's one of the clients. He died.
Oh no!
Yeah. So where was I? Yeah. That light distracted me.
Judgment.
Yeah. So,
Uh-huh.
like, of course, like the first couple of calls, I was very judgmental, and I think then I kind of softened a little bit. But sometimes I was like, "You're a fucking like." Australia, we use the word, the CUNT word very, very, very laxed. But
Mm-hmm.
I would think that those men would be like, man, this one, not this one again. This guy is like, cause he like misogynist really annoyed me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I understand you have fetishes and stuff like that. Like, oh, I want so, but there's nothing wrong with that if it's in like consenting thing. But then you would have a real misogynist, not somebody who was pretending to be a misogynist who respected women. You could always tell the difference just by
Mm-hmm.
the way they addressed you and the way they spoke to you and the way that they kind of
Mm-hmm.
just the way they I don't know the way they carried themselves. You can spot a misogynist a mile away, and
Yeah.
funnily enough, you can do the same. Your intuition is exactly the same over the phone.
Yeah. Did you ever feel sorry for them?
Oh, definitely. There was a lot of times where
Mhm.
I felt sorry for them because um, some of their wives, like, didn't know anything about them,
Mhm.
about their husband. They didn't know, and I wonder what they were worried about judgment. Like, you should
Mhm.
be, if you're going to be with someone for 20 years and you've got this burning fetish or whatever that you have to explore before you die, even if you're white, like, you have to talk about it. You
Mhm.
can't just call up phone sex lines and, like, I think it's just so important that the wife knows, even if they don't want to do it, just
Mhm.
taking that burden off. And I was part of that for them. I was able to lighten the burden a little bit because they could kind of, talk about it. And then I'd tell them, it's so common. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Because sometimes you would get like young men who are like 23 and they're like, I can't come unless I'm watching a girl piss, and stuff like that. And you just think, look, it's a fetish. It exists. It's not. I mean, there's lots of literature about it. Like, I've read the scientific literature behind some fetishes and things like that. Just
Mhm.
purely through and those kinds of things. So it's just, I've really, really, really turned on by this as well, like panties. I really love when my wife wears black, like these kinds of panties or something, or even just men who wanted to wear women's clothing, and they're like, I'm not like gay, and they'd say, but I'm not like um I'm also like I'm not like I'm not trans either and stuff like that. They'd say to me, and and I just say it's so common, and I so there was like some softness about some conversations. I mean,
Mhm.
they were rare. They were like probably like three to
Mhm.
maybe 2 to 3%,
Mhm.
but they existed. And interestingly, I did get some I felt really sorry. So during 2017, at the end of 2017, Australia had a vote for gay marriage, like, for
Mhm.
so same-sex marriage. And around that time, I had a huge influx of calls from men that were so confused, and I think due to biophobia especially, they were so confused. And I just had to say, like, there's nothing wrong. Like, it's okay if you like. You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be
Yeah.
straight. You can be bi. So there
Yeah.
was actually a lot of guys that were like, I don't know. If I'm gay, then why am I? talking to you, like I'm attracted to, I think, am I gay? And I'd be like, no, you're probably bisexual. And they'd be like, I
Mm-hmm.
never thought of that. So yeah, there was a
Uh-huh.
softness.
So that's interesting. So people were calling you confused about their sexuality.
A lot of men are, because it's very, you're either gay. Biphobia is extremely prevalent, especially like, because people think you can only, people only think in terms of like, you can only be gay and you
Mm-hmm.
can only be straight.
Mm-hmm.
And so so they definitely thought, they definitely just thought, I don't know what's wrong with me, like why did I have that? And they would, that maybe the memories came back to them, but they'd be like, I sucked a guy's cock, or I've had sex with like my best friend, and I really like him, and like I don't know what to do about this. And I'm like, he's
Mm-hmm.
like, am I gay? And I'm like, I can't answer that, but why
Mm-hmm.
don't you just be bi? Like
Yeah.
maybe you're bi. And then they were like,
Why do you
wow.
need a definition? Just roll with the flow, right?
Yeah, like
And
why don't
see
you
what.
just,
Yeah.
there's two, you can be bi or you can be straight, so you can
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah. Was there a common fantasy in men?
Absolutely. Definitely mistress, which I've definitely said before. They like having a mistress. They like a dominant woman, and
Mm-hmm.
as you can see, I can definitely play that role. I can be
Mm-hmm.
very dominant. I can be very authoritative. I can be very, very direct, and I
Mm-hmm.
can get what I want out of them. So they really liked that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was that the predominant fantasy that men had?
I would say so. The other one was probably shoes.
Shoes. High heels?
Shoes, but in ways that you cannot imagine somebody would have a foot fetish or shoe fetish, like ways in like fuck your own shoe kind of way, like they would
Huh.
like rub their penis all over
That
all
is
over
so
women's shoes,
interesting. Okay.
and they would go and buy shoes. So then imagine this, like now forever, when I go buy shoes, I think if there's a man there and they're buying shoes, are they buying them for their wife, or are they buying them for themselves to rub their cock all over late at night?
I would never have that idea when I go buy shoes.
Well, I do now, so now you have to. No.
I will not recover from that.
Sorry, girls. I'm sorry. But yes, there are definitely some men out there who are literally going out to buy shoes to either wear themselves or to stick their penis in. I promise you that is happening, because it was damn common.
Oh my god.
So I mean, the foot fetish was the most common, but then there was just far too many guys that wanted to stick their penis in shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women's shoes and panties. I mean, it's
Panties.
yeah, they kind of stood out as well. Panties is another fetish that was really kind of, it just kind of, some nights you just get all water sports, some nights you just get all panties. Just I don't know. There's just a vibe sometimes, I guess, and there was definitely a link between what was going on in the media and what they wanted. So I could see these patterns. Else could. So whatever was happening in the media was a direct reflection of what you would see in what the types of calls I would get. So when Selena Gomez was in the media a lot, there was I had to say to the guy, suck on my Gomez's, which is my toes. They wanted me to pretend to be Selena Gomez. When I think when there was like there was some like a celebrity, like around like celebrity galas and things like that, they'd always have more celebrity fantasies and stuff like that. Like whatever was going on, there was a direct kind of correlation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me one of your stories with the guys that you're sharing in the book. I'm sure you have plenty.
Which one?
Yeah. Pick whatever one. Like share a few with me. Pick whatever you want to share in whatever order, because I'm sure they all are incredible and funny and bizarre at the same time.
I think I mentioned the other night. I mentioned there was Mr. Exactly. There was Mr. Money, and that was very psychological. I'm going to go with probably going to go with Mr. Maybe Mr. Exactly. So Mr. Exactly had and I think he was quite a high profile person. So when he would call, I only kind of worked out after he had finished or whatever, that he was a normal person. So when he would call, he would say, "Hey, Missy, I'm just after, um, I've been a bad boy. I'm a criminal." And I was like, "Oh, why are you a criminal, baby? Like, why? Tell me more." He's like, "Well, I was just outside with my girlfriend, and we were just down in the city, and we were barefoot, and we're not allowed to, we weren't wearing shoes, and we are barefoot bandits. We're so naughty. We're so bad." And then I would say, and then he would kind of get me to say it, and I would say, "Oh, you're such a bad boy. You're a criminal. You're such a bad boy. Yeah, they're going to lock you up." And he'd go, "Exactly. Yeah." With this really high pitched voice. And every time I would say, "You are such a bad boy. You have been out in the city, out and around on the town with no shoes on, no socks on, bare feet, you barefoot bandit. You're going to go straight to jail. They're going to lock you up and throw away the key." And he would go, "Exactly, yeah." Like, and it almost like, even when he did it, I'd just be thinking, like, he feels like he's nodding his head. Be like, "Exactly, yeah." And it was just that his only response. Like,
Oh
he
my
said once. So this was the thing, like he said it once to me. "I'm a barefoot bandit. I'm a criminal." And then there's this long pause, and I'm thinking, shit, I have to say something. What do I say? And I was like, okay, mirror him. And as soon as I started mirroring him, that's how the conversation continued. So I knew I had to do that. And then I got that response. "Exactly, yeah." So I knew I was on the right track because of the way and the intensity of how he was saying "exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah," over and over again, when I'd be like, "You are such a bad boy. You're such a criminal. They're going to lock you up. They're going to throw away the key. You are so naughty. Oh my God, I can't believe how much of a criminal you are. You've really done it this time."
So were you like hang up the phone and went like what?
I'm with Mr. Exactly, was like, "Exactly, yeah." The first time he called, the first time I was like, "What is this?" I was like, "How many times does someone say exactly?" I was like, "Is this guy the fool?" Like in Australia would say, "Is this guy the full quid?" I was like, "Is this guy like a few kangaroos short of the top paddock? Like, what's going on?" He just keeps on saying, like, "Exactly, yeah." And then at the end of the phone call, he goes, "Thank you very much, Missy. I really appreciate that. That was lovely." And then he hung up the phone. And so that's actually, yeah. And the second time that he called, I could not hold it together because I'm like, he's back. And I was like, this is and I don't had it like a couple of comments, another calls that were funny, and I couldn't hold it in. So I'm like, he's going, "Exactly, yeah." And I'm going, so that silent, painful laughter that like you get when you can't breathe. You like started laughing. It's so intense and you can't stop. And it's like this deep laughter that comes and like it's silent because you're laughing so hard. It was that. But I didn't start like I don't know how I did it, but I was very good at it. I was very good at hiding my laughter. I don't know how or why, but yeah, I guess it was just the thing of like, hold on there, like, come on, get it together, get your shit together, because you got to I could make heaps of money out of this, keep it together. Like, and I feel like, yeah, maybe that's like, might just be like my brain's wired. I'm able to like, get it together, keep it together because I am neurodiverse. So maybe that's why like being neurodiverse has kind of helped with being able to endure those kind of things and like, okay, get it together, don't laugh, don't fall apart kind of thing, because I constantly have to do it being neurodiverse in real life. So just wow. I remember Mr. Exactly, he was just now it's just an ongoing joke between my partner and I, because he actually heard that call, one of those calls. The second time he called, was like, yes, he's called, handed him over the thing. And
how often did he listen in on your calls?
That one time, and it was Mr. Exactly. And I thought, what a perfect way to start and end. That was the one time, and it was, I don't know, because he said, it was sort of like, he was like, I have to know before I die what what you're hearing. It was just like, I have to know. And I was like, okay, this one time. And I was like, yes, it's Mr. Exactly. And yeah, it's an ongoing joke between us now. Every time we hear someone say exactly, we both go, exactly, yeah. Because Mr. Exactly changed our life. Like, yeah.
Oh,
That
man.
was Mr. Exactly. And I honestly feel like he might have been a politician. I just feel like it. 100%. Some of the ones that would
Or a
call me,
lawyer. Or a lawyer.
or something really high profile.
Yeah.
He just, the way he carried himself, he was very intelligent, but he sounded like he wasn't at all, or like very childlike. And I was just like, wow. So yeah, that's Mr. Exactly. We've got time for another if you like.
Yes, tell me.
So there is, there's Mr. So Ruby, hang on here. No, sorry, Cock Bonnet Racer.
Okay.
He loved calling me up, and he loved to tell me that he had a red car, a sports car. He probably, like, he didn't tell me the name of it, probably because he didn't want to be identified. He's like, I have a red sports car, and it's in my garage. It's at the end. It's in a shed at the end of my house, and you know, I was cleaning it all day. I gave it, I detailed it and everything, and then he's like, and now I'm going to go down and I'm going to sit in it and I'm going to pull my cock. And I was like, oh, that's so sexy. I love that. You rub your steering wheel and everything. Like, I was like, this was fun. So I was like, I'm going to get this guy to do some crazy things because I need to be amused right now. I just had to, you know, so I was like, maybe you should like rub your cock all over the steering wheel. And he's like, oh my God, that's so hot. And I was like, yeah, smack it on the steering. He's like, oh, my cock, it's leaking. I've got pre-cum. I'm like, perfect. Get that pre-cum and rub it all over the steering wheel. And I was like, I want to hear you slap that thing all over the steering wheel, all over the seat. I want you to feel the coldness of the leather on the inside of your cock, on the belly end of your cock. I want you to pull your foreskin back. I want you to feel it. And then I was like, rub that cock all over the steering wheel. And then when he'd done that, I was like, you know what I really think you should do? You're really fucking sexy, baby. Like, it would turn me on so much and make me so wet. He's like, what is it? And I was like, if you went to the front of your bonnet and smacked your cock on the front of it. So he smacked his cock on the bonnet of his car, and I could hear him smacking it on the bonnet. Sounded pretty decent, like, I don't know, pretty big cock, but yeah, he was smacking it on the bonnet, so I'd hear this big thump, and this was like his prized possession sports car, but you know, he loved going there to wank, and he loved going there to wank over his car. Like, I think he was like one of those guys that's like sexually attracted to like his car, so I made him do all these things to it, and I was like, yeah, rub that all over the steering wheel. So God only knows, like, and I made him actually, I missed the last bit. He finished on the bonnet. So I was like, yeah, stand over it with your legs spread, your pants down, and I want you to smack it on the bonnet, and then I want you to explode all over the front of it, baby. And then afterwards, I think he probably had some like considerable regret because it probably
because he's been cleaning it all day.
Yes.
And you made him do the dirty.
I gauged his reaction. He was so turned on by the steering wheel, so turned on by the seats, so turned on by like the car and the interior and everything. And like, I was like, does it have real shiny metal? And he's like, yes. So like, I was building up to like, I wonder if he'll be like extra turned on if I smacked his cock on the bonnet. And he was. When that first smack, I knew it.
Yeah. Oh man. That's a special one.
Bonnet races. So I had a name for every one of my clients. I'd be like, oh, here, this is, you know, I remember.
I love that. I love how you like came up with the name for them.
Cock Bonnet Racer, and there was Ruby Red Cock Shoe. Like, they're all.
What's
you can
that
see
one?
it all in the book.
Oh, is that the shoe guy?
That's the shoe guy, but the shoe
Okay.
guy,
You're
like,
ready for the shoe guy.
I made them more. If I was like, oh, that's your fetish, huh? Well, I'm going to keep you on the line as long as possible. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to make their fetish more intense. I'm going to cement that in their mind and create like a psychological pathway that makes them, you know, go, like, you know, I kind of use that kind of position like porn kind of does, like more and more, give them more, you know,
Mhm.
suggest more things to them for that fetish.
Yeah.
So they keep coming back. I
Yeah.
mean, it was invigorating. They loved it.
Yeah.
Every second of it, you could hear the ecstasy. They loved it. I was doing a good job, but I did make them go outside the box for their fetish and made them think of ways. Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. You know, one guy, like, he stole his girlfriend's dildo and he wanted a mistress, so I told him he had to put the dildo down. One, because he was sticking it up his ass, and I was like, my God, like, this is a thing too, ladies. Just, if you don't know what your man is into, and if you feel like your dildo's been tampered with, it could have been
Oh my
stuck
God.
up someone else. Like, could have been stuck up your husband's ass. Not
Never,
saying you would have.
never had that thought either. Never.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, I've heard a lot of men wanting the back
Oh
door,
yeah.
but I've never put the two together that this could be a
There's a dildo at the
possibility.
house. They're not going to go buy. They're not going to buy one online or go. Like, men are not that resourceful, right? Like, I love men, but like, they're not that fucking resourceful. They're not going to be like, if there's a dildo that's already there, they're just going to go and get the dildo that's already there, and they're not going to think about it because they've just got lizard brain, and they're just not going to think about it, and they're going to be like, I'm just going to stick whatever it is. So I was like, you know what? You're a bad boy and you really want this, so I'm going to make you stick a carrot up there. So I made him stick a carrot up his ass. I mean, you have to think, like, I'm not making them do this.
Wait.
They're doing it. But yeah.
You made him go to the fridge and get a carrot?
I'm
sorry.
A cold carrot.
I can't. Okay.
And he stuck it right up there. But I also made he also kind of went to like almost in like a state of like, I don't know, like a brain survival state when he put it in. He was like, oh, it's cold in my bum. My bum. So I said, so yeah, like I made him.
Did you at least have him lube that thing up?
I think so, yeah. I think that was. I mean, he wanted me to tell him what to do. He wanted me to do the most extreme things imaginable, and I was like, okay.
Was that the dominatrix type that you were playing out in that one?
Oh, that was, yeah. My favorite is being a dominatrix. Like, I'm fucking brilliant at it. Yeah. I'm really good at it. And I just know, because I know exactly what men want. Like, yeah, I just know how to, and I know how to be mean. I channel that, and I know how to be mean because I just, you know, that having that control, I don't know, maybe there's a psychological aspect because of, like, you know, women are oppressed. So having that. Yeah. Yes, goddess, I'll do anything. Like, oh, you know, I would push it too far sometimes. Like, sometimes I don't know my limits and their limits if I didn't know them well enough, and then they would hang up, but they'd come back still. Even when they hung up, they'd come back. Like, yeah, not all the time, but yeah, sometimes they'd be like, I want to do the most extreme thing possible, and I was like, you really want to sign off on this, like with Missy? And they're like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do, mistress, I do. And I was like, so you're going to do absolutely anything I say? I said, because I don't fuck around. And I'd be like, I don't fuck around with this, so you have to do what I say. And I'm going to tell you to do some pretty crazy things. And they're like, oh, what? I'm like, pull your pants down. And then I'd say, now walk into the bathroom, get the toilet seat, smack the toilet seat on your cock. You like pain? I'll show you pain. So I made them smack the toilet seat repeatedly on their cock. So just things like that. Like, sometimes it was a bit much for them, and then they'd hang up, and I'd be like, "Whoops, bit of a power trip there." So I'll just dial it down a bit. Dial down Mistress Missy just about 10 notches, and
yeah. It takes, like, I'm impressed by you, because it takes a lot of imagination to come up with these scenarios.
Oh yeah.
I have been around this kind of world. I know I've tried even playing this out myself, and I can't go beyond basics. Like my imagination is limited to what scenarios that I need to tell another person to play out. So it takes a lot of effort for me to even think through the game. It's a
Yes.
lot of work actually. Like it's less enjoyable for me because I am the one doing the thinking and have to come up with these scenarios. So I am impressed by your ability to just quickly come up with stuff like that on a spot for them to execute. So that's a
Yeah.
good quality to have for that type of
Oh yeah,
responsibility as
absolutely.
well.
Like that's
Yeah.
I could definitely use that and play it out to my advantage because it was just
Yeah.
very yeah. I'm very eclectic. I can just do that, and
Yeah.
I recognize that other people aren't, but they were always blown away by how eclectic I was, and they were like, "Wow, I never thought of doing that. I'd never
Yeah.
thought of putting a piece of an ice chip underneath my foreskin, or I'd never thought of like playing with my foreskin like that."
Uh-huh.
Whereas, yeah,
Uh-huh.
how do you know this about men? I'm like, me, baby. What are you talking about?
Do you believe the service that you were providing for the men was healing in a way, was crucial in a way, was like what is your, do you feel yourself like a healer in a sense? Because I spoke to other dominatrixes and they see themselves as a therapist in a sense. So do you see yourself in that way or no?
I do. I do. I mean, I think it's kind of true. I think there's an excitement there. It brings excitement. It's healing in the sense that it can restore chemical imbalances in the brain, you know, especially with
Mhm.
dopamine. It gives a nice dopamine rush. And I do feel like there's a healing aspect. I think I'd be a fucking fantastic dom in person too, but it's just not safe unless you have
Mhm.
the right setup at your own home, and you have security there as well.
Mhm.
But that's kind of, I'd love to do that. Like I've always wanted to do like be a dominatrix in person because I think I'd just be just as good at it. So, but yeah, like I can't speak. I'm sure it's different for the other dominatrix when they do it in person. I'm sure it's a lot. You know, who knows? I mean, I doubt that I wouldn't be good at it, but who knows? Maybe I might find it more challenging. But yeah, I definitely consider myself a healer, just like
Mhm.
them, because you're giving a vital kind of you're helping them to not feel, you know, like alone, and they need to, sometimes they just need to know that they're not that weird. Like it's really like, if there's any men listening, like, and you like piss or you like shoes or whatever, and you like a dildo up your ass or whatever, like it's so fucking common. Like it's, there's nothing wrong with you. And then if there's women out there who have these fetishes, there's also nothing wrong with you either. Like
Mhm.
that's another important thing. Like I think people kind of ascribe these things to men, but like, you know, like it's just as common in women as it is men. All you have to do is, you know, if you just open your eyes, go on to like Pornhub and stuff. There are, the women are not haven't got their own personal channels. It's, you know, this is ethical porn.
Mhm.
They haven't got those personal channels because they're turning you on. They're also doing it because they're turned on by it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I mean, not to speak of my own fetishes because I don't necessarily go, I don't think it's all that interesting. But yeah, like it's so common. And I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Like that's such an important thing. Like if there's any men listening, like just, there's nothing wrong with you. It's fine. But just try and
Yeah.
talk to your wife about it. Like
Yes. I'm all, yeah,
try and be,
exactly.
and if your wife doesn't, then maybe you have to reevaluate your relationship because that
Mhm.
person, they're supposed to be your person.
Yeah.
Not, they have to be. You can't keep these kind of secrets. Like I felt very sad that they had gone. You know, there were sometimes there were men that were calling me, and they had this thing that was years, like their whole life.
Mhm.
Their wife doesn't even know what they like,
Yeah.
or who they are and what turns them on. And I just find that really sad. Like we only
Yeah.
live once, God.
Yes. In that sense, do you feel that it is still cheating if they don't get it in their relationship and they come for you? Do you feel that this is a supplement, or do you
I
feel
mean,
that it is
it is.
cheating?
It's dishonesty. I don't think I would consider it cheating, because I think it's very, when you're talking to a professional, there's no emotional connection whatsoever, and they're never, anyone who thinks that that they've had emotional connection with sex work, you haven't, okay? Or if you have,
Mhm.
it's like one in like a million kind of thing. Like, you're never having that. You're not going to have like this love and this emotional connection. It's
Mhm.
all, it's all for them. And so, in that sense, it's strictly professional, the relationship. So it's dishonest. I would. It, I guess it depends who you talk to would consider it cheating. Would I consider it cheating? No. Do I consider it dishonest? Yes. Would it be a
Mhm.
conversation I want to have with my partner if that's what he was doing? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in terms of, what I would say to the women who have husbands, and unfortunately this is happening all over the world. There's phone sex services in America and whatever. If your husband or boyfriend or whatever is calling a phone sex line, um, like, oh God, I've lost my train of thought. If they're calling the phone sex line, better that than going out and having physical sex where they can get STIs, or when
Yeah.
those kinds of things, and and form like even like an obsessive emotional connection to to a physical person, because
Yeah.
I'm just a figment of their imagination on the phone. And so I would, if I was going to be in their position, I'd be, please call a phone sex line over seeing someone in real life.
Yeah.
Better that than, yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. Share with me and the audience where they can get your book, what's in the book, what they're gonna find out from your book. Share about your passion project here. Oh no, did you get frozen? Oh, we may
Oh,
have.
we're right.
Oh,
Okay.
there you are. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
hoping
here.
it comes back.
Yeah, just like something happened just then. Okay. Yeah, you can get my book on Amazon KDP. It's in the US it's $3.99. No, $2.99, and in Australia it's $3.99. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of the thing. Yeah, so you can get that. It's a very short book, but it is hilarious. I mean, of
Mhm.
course it is. I wrote it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, just from the way you tell these stories makes me want to
yeah,
go buy it right now.
yeah. So the way I tell the stories, I'm telling the stories exactly the same as I'm telling them right
Mhm.
now, but it's in text. So basically, what you hear from me in this is basically what you're going to get in the book. The book
Yeah.
is very short. It's very, it's written in a way that you're reading, like you might be reading something on like Reddit or like a subreddit, like where they
Uh-huh.
have like it's written like dialogue, kind of like a script. So it's
Mhm.
very clear. You can follow. Missy says this, client says this, and so it's written in a way that it's easy to read. And then it's stories, so you can pick. I might read one story tonight, the next one, another one, and they're
Yeah.
they're relatively short, and they're
Yeah.
hilarious, and they're funny, and it gives you a crazy insight into what phone sex was like, as if you were right there. Like, the most important thing for me is, because of my memory, I'm able to bring into the picture something that I don't think any other phone sex worker is able to do. I'm able to take myself back to that moment and bring you with me. And then
Mhm.
you can see and you can read it, and you can absorb absorb as if you were
Mhm.
there, like you were tapped into a phone line. And I pride myself
Yeah.
on that fact, because there's so much detail. It has my inner thoughts, like everything of what I was
Mhm.
thinking at the time, because I just remember it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. You said it's on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Amazon EDP, Tales of a Phone Sex Girl. And the front cover in one of the stories tell me, yeah, you'll have to, if you want to know what one of the stories is related to the front cover.
Okay.
And you'll be able to know. You'll be able to know when you get to it. But yeah.
Okay. And we'll put all of those all of the links, all of the informations and podcast descriptions once it is released. So there will be a link in the podcast descriptions. Missy, thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having
coming
me.
on today. And I'm so excited to just had an opportunity to speak with you like that casually about
Yeah.
weirdness and
Yeah,
bizarreness of
casually.
the
Yeah.
phone sex world.
I'm using my voice now to talk
Oh,
about it instead of doing it. Yeah.
yes, yes, it was definitely very informative and most definitely entertaining. And I am so grateful for you
Yeah,
to
I've
have
really
that
enjoyed it.
time. Yeah, yeah.
It was great to chat with you.